Board.
Got it.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of From the Mechanics Bench. Really excited to share my conversation with my guest this week, Christine Lynch, one half of the ownership team for FORBikes in Nanaimo. Super rad. She is a teacher. She is a mother. She is an artist. She is a racer. She is a rider. Really excited to have this conversation. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming and joining me.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Christine, we've known each other for a long time now, but for those of you out there that haven't been lucky to know Christine for as long as I have, what's your story? Like, how'd you get into it? What's your journey been like getting into mountain biking, getting into riding in general, and yeah, bring me from little Christine to now.
So little Christine started riding quite early on. I rode in the 90s as a small little tyke, and I grew up on the Sunshine Coast, which is also a mecca. Everyone talks about the shore being where biking started, which it did. Not taking that away from the shore. But the Sunshine Coast, I think, has such a rich history of riding as
Totally.
well that is really unique. So I was like one of the original Sprott kids with Doug
Nice.
Detweiler. Yeah, so if you actually, it's funny, Grant, my husband, other half of FORBikes, did the Sprott Kids course with Doug Detweiler a few years back, and he's looking in the catalog, and he's like, that's my wife when she's like 10. So yeah, like Doug Detweiler and actually my sisters both rode. They don't ride as much anymore. I shouldn't say as much. They don't ride anymore. But I want to do like what my sisters were doing, but I got hooked and they didn't. So yeah, Janice Brown had like a girls group, which is like pretty unique for that time
Totally.
too. Yeah, they had a high school like girls group and I was in elementary school and I joined all the high school girls and yeah, like Bob Stanhope and Steve Sleep. Just shout out to all those guys and the On the Edge. Then it became Off the Edge, but it was
Yep.
on the edge at the time. So just like being a shop grom early on, that kind of got me into riding and then eventually got asked to race because I was always on my bike.
Yep.
Um, and I was horrible.
We all were when we started.
Oh
Like,
man, like just
yeah.
I was so bad. And I was someone who was like not to like pat my own shoulder, but like someone who was pretty naturally athletic and
Yeah.
excelled in most sports. And I was on the basketball team, I swam, I competitively figure skated, I danced, like I did everything and I was fairly good at a lot of things. And I started racing and I came dead last. And I
Totally.
was horrendous. And I was like, wait, what? And then I was instantly hooked.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it so much.
It's funny that you say that because like I found my experience, your husband was a huge part of that experience for me because like I rode with him, I rode with
Yeah.
Jeff, I rode with all those guys when I first moved to North Ann and they were like, come race, come race. And I was like, well, I ride with you guys like every day. You guys seem to be
Yeah.
doing well. You're racing pro. And like, sure,
Yeah.
I'll go. And then it was like, holy crap, I suck.
Yeah.
Like,
Racing is its own, it's its own
what?
thing. It's
Yeah,
its own thing. Like you can be an excellent rider and a horrible racer.
totally. Yeah,
Like they are completely separate categories of mountain biking. And like for me, like I can be quite calculated on a bike, but when I'm racing, it's like that calculation. I mean, shouldn't say that because you are calculated when you're racing too, but it's like something else turns on in your brain
totally.
and that competitiveness takes over and I ride in such a different form than I
Totally.
do casually.
And you are
Yeah.
right. The calculation kind of goes out the window because instead of like the small little move at the start of a race course that normally would still be calculated, it's like I've somehow forgotten all about that could be hard, and it's like just pedal through it or go harder, or and then it's like that's where I would crash, every
I
single
think we're
time.
still I think I think like I am still calculated when I'm racing, but I just have such drive to do well because
Yeah,
I'm so competitive that the fear kind of turns off. So it's like I know that I can do it. And I know like casually riding too that I can do features and sometimes I just choose not to.
yeah,
But when I'm racing, I'm like, that's the faster line.
totally.
Like so you like that fear has to kind of get put into like compartmentalized during a race run.
Yeah,
And I loved I love that mindset of racing.
Totally.
It's quite addicting.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing that's so crazy though about like that mindset is it's like I still see that exact same compartmentalization happen when you go with a beginner rider. And this is the thing
Mhm.
that's so crazy is people are like, oh, you're good, or Christine, you're amazing. You probably don't want to ride with
Yeah.
me starting. But it's like when you see a beginner, put that same fear, that same thing, even if it's riding off a curb, like in a box, over there, we're gonna do it. And then you see the joy that
Yeah.
happens afterwards. You're like, man, if we could all tap into that all the time,
Yeah.
they would like things would be, and that's one of the beautiful things mountain biking does, right? Is like
Yeah.
gives you a venue to do that. But
I think
back
it's
to
a
your
pretty, oh, sorry. Yeah.
no, I was gonna
I
say
just think
back
it's
to
a
your
pretty
story, but
common
yeah,
thread
it
for a
is.
lot of us, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then so you're racing, you did the high school league,
Mhm.
you've done that. I think I met you in like I would have been what 2009, 10, maybe somewhere in there.
Somewhere around, yeah,
In
somewhere
and
around
around there.
there.
You were racing downhill at that point. You were working at Obsession Bikes
Yeah. Yeah.
and you were in school then, right? Like you were
Yeah.
still, and that was in your education degree. Sorry, my compressor's going off. We'll
Yeah.
just turn that down,
It's all good.
or we
Yeah,
won't.
I was, so I think it probably was around 2010.
Yep.
Because I didn't start working in Obsession until my second year of university.
Okay.
So yeah, and I was racing cross country mostly
Oh, right. Yes.
until I started at the shop, and then you guys North Shoreized me
Yeah.
pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember showing up to my first shore ride, full lycra, no visor on the helmet, ready to pedal, and everyone's like, knee pads, shin pads, like,
Well, look
I
at
mean,
like
this is
Nikolai
still a
Regat
time of
now.
26 to 20. But I'm just like, I don't even own baggy shorts. Like,
What am I gonna do?
I went and I fell on my face a bunch of times on my little Brody Kinetic with like 100
Yep.
mils of travel, and just was like, I need a new bike. I
Yeah.
can't ride here. The shore was so eye-opening, like coming from Sunshine Coast, which is like flow and jumps and fast, to
Pretty
like
sick.
slow and tech and steep, was such a shift in, and
Yeah.
pretty humbling, because I thought I was a caliper of rider, and then I moved to the shore and I was like, I don't know how to ride.
And the thing that's crazy is like it's not that you weren't a caliber of rider. It's just that it's just such a different skill set that exists in
Yeah.
so few places, right? Like that's the thing
Yeah.
that's so weird about riding there. Because I felt the same thing even come from Edmonton, where it was like every one-off jump that there was to hit or hard trail there, it was like, okay, you got that locked down.
Yeah.
Then you all of a sudden you get there and you're like, okay, like I don't know how to ride my bike like
Yeah.
at all,
I always call it leveling up. And I find
Yep.
when I'm riding, I go through these like eras of plateauing, where I'm like the same for the same amount of time, and then
Yep.
something clicks in your brain and it's like the learning curve's like this, and you like
Totally.
are like, okay, and you're falling a lot and you're challenging yourself a lot and you're playing that mental game a lot, and then you got it, and then
Yeah.
you plateau, and
Totally.
then it happens again. And for me, moving to the shore was like this
Yeah.
huge learning curve. And it, like, yeah, like I said, like I had the skill set.
Yeah.
It was just such a different terrain. And I loved it though. Like, tech is still like my hands down my favorite, and then a lot of that
When you're
came
good at
from,
it, you
yeah,
know. So did
wheels on the
you
ground are good.
was it hard like even then like there was a few women involved in riding at that point. Did you find that like difficult, like not having, because as far as I know at that point in any of the groups I was involved with, like I don't know if I had any women's only mountain bike rides. There was women's only road rides. There was women's only kind of like adventure rides, but I don't think there was a women's only ride. Was that something that even factored into your thinking? Or did you just kind of go for it?
It's always just been rides for me.
Yep.
Like, it's funny, we're just talking about this with Duncan, one of our techs here, and it's just funny, like, I don't want to sound like a dick, but like, it's funny that we have women's rides
Yep.
and then there's group rides.
Totally.
It's not like we're going for a male ride tonight,
Totally.
like
Yep.
it's like, so, but like women's rides, yeah, they didn't exist for me. And I just rode
Yep.
my bike, and there wasn't, I mean, but they weren't really an option. I think if like when I first started, I had that women's group that helped me get into it.
Yeah,
And I think that that's really such a valuable thing about women's rides. But you know, where I was in my riding ability, there weren't women's rides for me.
totally. Yeah,
Like they were for the new rider, they were for people getting into the sport that were
yeah,
coming in later, but there weren't a lot of people like me, or they had fully committed to racing or fully committed
yeah,
to the
yeah,
free ride
yeah,
scene. So I felt like for a long time, especially in university, I was in this kind of like space where I was being pulled in a couple different directions. Like I
yep.
either dive in and I become a racer and I put all of my money to this, or I can pay my tuition. So, like I had to kind of make a choice because
Yeah,
even with provincial titles and national ranking and like consistently over years, all the things that if a male version of me had those, they would
totally.
be on a team.
Yeah,
I didn't have those opportunities. They just didn't exist at the same rate as they do now for young girls. And I think that a lot's changed. Not enough. I don't think
yeah,
that's changed enough,
yeah,
but it's changing. But yeah, I had to kind of make a choice of like, do I get a degree and
yeah.
work my way towards a real job, or do I dive into racing?
Totally. But even there,
Yeah.
it's like you've worked your ass off, harder than most people I know. You're a full-time teacher, you know,
Mhm.
now. You're a full-time mother, and you have been for, you know, a long
Yeah.
time.
Well, full time for 2.5 years now, and part time
Yeah.
for almost 15 years
Which
almost.
anyone that knows about raising kids,
Yeah.
like even being a
Yeah.
part-time parent,
Yeah.
is a lot, right? And so you've
Yeah.
managed to find somehow, and now you also own a bike shop, which,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, which is amazing. It's incredible. FORBikes in Nanaimo, just so everyone is aware. Definitely look them up. Yeah, if you're there, they'll take care of everything. But how have you found that like balance? Is there things that, you know, you've talked about? Obviously, there's a huge discussion right now with women in riding. And one of the things that, and this might start a firestorm, but one of the things that I've always really admired about you is like you have worked your ass off, start to finish, to get where you are, and you've done it basically without complaining. You know, you put your head down, you love what you do,
Mhm.
you're intelligent, you're driven, you've done all these things. We hear a lot of things now like, oh, if we don't sponsor more women's free ride events, that women riders are gonna have to get a real job, you know. And it's like,
They've already been doing that.
yeah, people are doing that now, and dudes are doing that
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's, there's a lot of, you know. And so for me, I'm like, I feel like the focus, and not that I don't want to see like women's free ride events, it's incredible, like it's awesome to see
Mhm.
what it is, but I do think that we can also focus on like making it just a part of your life, as opposed to this
Mhm.
like get on the gravy train at, you know, 16 and then like just do that, you know, forever.
Well,
But
and a
you
lot of
found a way to
time,
do it.
yeah, and I think I just like I think that those events are really important.
Totally.
Personally, I was pretty livid, had a lot of heated discussions about that with people about or not forbidden, with formation being
Yep.
canceled.
Yep. Totally.
Because if you look at like what's going on with Dark Fest right now, like
It's rad.
that is just it's perfect on every level. It's the same course, the same jumps. They're
Totally.
absolutely flying. They have so much steez. Like it's so inspiring for young girls, but it's like they're my age.
Yeah.
Like Via was racing when I was racing. I don't know her, but like
Yeah.
I raced with Michaela Gatto and like all those girls and Miranda Miller.
Yep.
And they were the people who made the choice of like, I'm doing this, you
Yeah.
know? And I
Totally.
made the choice of like, I'm going this way. And so but they made it realistic. Like they were
Yep.
pioneering something that didn't exist. Like now these girls have something to see, and I think visual representation of the dream makes it really tangible.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Yep.
But I think that we're also like women in the industry are realizing that there's lots of avenues in this industry for us. So like you see like a lot more like female techs happening,
Totally.
like
Yeah.
many women own a bike shop? So for me, I kind of realized that like I'm really passionate about biking. It's like a huge part of who I am. It's why Grant and I named the shop Family of Riders, because
Yeah.
when we were going through different names, like we were like, we just really need to find something that like captures us as like a family of riders. And we just looked at each other and we're like, there it is. But like it's really like bikes can really become so ingrained in like your soul of like who you
Totally.
are, which is a wild thing, like to be so identified by a piece of machinery. But it's like it's the lifestyle, it's the camaraderie, like it's
Totally.
the community, like there's so many amazing parts of it. And I feel like for women, there's a real opportunity by having these conversations to open more doors to feel more included in the community.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely kept my mouth shut a lot of
Yeah.
times when I've had
Yeah.
moments like, many times I picked up the phone and said, "Hey, can I speak to a technician?" And I'm like, "Well, you're actually speaking to the owner."
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Or
I can
like,
answer your question. Trust
yeah,
me. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, or like, oh, I mean, not so much here in like in my community, people tend to know me a little bit more, but like when I was at Obsession, like,
Yeah.
people ask me if I worked there all the time, even though I had a giant Obsession logo on my shirt, holding a shop rag behind a stand.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, how much more obvious can it get? Or I've been asked whose daughter I was, working in a shop.
Yep.
So like, I think there's still a lot of work to do,
Totally.
but
Well, I
yeah.
think that's part of what's so incredible, like talking to you, and then Katie, who's obviously one of my business partners now, who I worked with at John
Mhm.
Henry's way back, and then
Yeah.
it's very similar stories, right? She still gets asked all the time, and there's times when I can she'll come to the back and she'll be so frustrated because she'll be like, "Dave, I just need to go to you to tell this guy the same thing that I've told him 15 times,
Yeah.
but he's just like not listening, to
Yeah.
me." And usually it's so rewarding to be able to say, "Oh yeah, like as Katie said, this is
Totally.
like you don't need me to tell you this,
Yeah.
at all." But yeah, I mean, it is a cool space to see grow. I
Yeah.
think that and I look, and I think that visual representation thing is really important. I look at women's hockey or women's soccer
Mhm.
or any of these other sports, right? We see
Mhm.
massive growth in Canada, and then I see what is happening with women's riding, and I think it's like just it's a special thing to be a part of. Are you guys
Totally.
doing group rides right now out of your shop?
No, not like official
Yeah,
group rides. Yeah. Not yet. We're still in like such an
I know,
infancy.
it's so
It's just-
exciting.
yeah.
Yeah,
And there's just like it's a lot with a little one at home and yeah,
totally.
running a shop
Well, I was
and
just curious only
yeah.
because it was really interesting you were talking about the group ride scene. And for us, it's been really because we had like a woman's ride. We
Mhm.
had actually an incredible group of ambassadors called the Shifted Sisters that run basically our
Mhm.
entire women's program. But so much of that has actually migrated into like our quote unquote group ride
Mhm.
because it's like as long as there's a safe place for like women to go ride and to go do their thing, they've actually ended up like migrating kind of just to the group program and the after party and the after beer and the barbecue and
Yeah.
that it's slowly but surely we are starting to recognize that it is like you were saying, it's just riding, it's the same thing,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And if
Yeah.
people are cool, people are cool, and if
Yeah.
like it
Totally.
it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think that like those things, like I'm part of organizing for the Murder Horn, which is a all female identifying enduro.
Yep.
And I love that. But part of my kind of take on it is that you need space for all, and that
Totally.
includes those hyper competitive females too.
Yes. Yeah.
So I often like, and like this is like maybe my controversial
Yeah,
topic,
your
but
hot
like
take. Yeah.
my hot take is there's a lot of opportunity for women right now to go on group rides, and there's a lot of safe spaces, and that's really awesome. I was
Yeah.
about to drop an F-bomb there.
You
Really
can.
awesome.
This is not a kids
Um,
podcast. Yeah.
yeah, but I think it's really important too to have those
Yeah.
spaces for women to come in and not feel overwhelmed, not feel like there's someone breathing down their neck, to learn with other women. I think those are really important. But I also, on the flip side of that, think it's really important to create space for women to be absolutely sending it, because
Totally.
that shows those progressions. So with the murder horn, you know, we've stayed with the ride lab categories. So we have like the cruiser, the giver, but I was like, we need an expert category. Like
Yeah.
that was me being like, this has to stay, because it's the same as the Island Cup. And I think it's important that women
Yeah.
want to go into that too, because the
Yeah.
Island Cup, like it's still like 40-1
Yeah.
for
I
women.
bet. I bet.
Like
Yeah.
it's not equality happening there,
Yeah.
and women aren't going to sign up for those until they get a test, which is why things like the murder horn is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
But you also need to pick those places for women to be sending, so that they have that goal to get to if that's what they want.
Well, and then even in competition nationally, like we know what the BC Cup, the Canada Cup, the World Cup circuit, looks like. We know what points look like. We know that we have to have feeder series with the ability to excel, and not
Yeah,
excel just in riding. Excelling doesn't necessarily mean racing, but like if you want to do it, there has to be a venue, to do it, which
totally.
is which is
Yeah.
rad.
And we see women dropping out of sport at a much higher rate than men.
Yeah.
Like by the age of 16, almost half of youth have dropped out of sport. So like you need to create these
And
spaces.
so,
I
as
really
a
think.
teacher and a rider, what do you
Mhm.
think the main cause of that is?
I think there's still like a narrative that's perpetuated about women in sport, that women aren't competitive, that women's sport is like, I've literally seen students of mine be like, well, women's basketball, they just shoot like, double hands. And I'm like, when's the last time you watched women's basketball?
Yeah,
Like clearly you haven't watched a game anytime
ever.
recently,
Yeah,
forever. Um, so I think there's still like this stereotype that exists in our society about women in sport that is going to take a long time to change. But I also think that our like the mountain bike industry is part of perpetuating that narrative a bit too. Like, you see go into a bike shop, how many images of women do you see hung in the walls?
yeah, totally. Yeah,
And often if you do, it's like it's a beginner rider, so that it like, because there's that's the largest market
yeah,
for buying
yeah,
bikes, so they want to see themselves there. But I'm like, I think it's also important to have a picture of a girl absolutely sending it too.
yeah,
So like the mountain bike industry often still, you still see way more images of women, two wheels on the ground, going
yeah,
down the trail. So I think that is still perpetuated a bit. It's
yeah.
changing,
Yeah, it is changing. It's changing slowly,
but
for sure. And I think that the argument that well, they're just not doing anything that cool is very is being
dead.
finally proven wrong, right?
Yeah,
Which is, I
yeah.
think, a huge thing, because I think that there is, like, whether we like it or not, there's always going to be these naysayers that are going to be in this place where it's like, well, until they are competing at the same place, it's just, it is what it is. And I
Yeah.
do think especially Darkfest is a great example. That was my issue with Formation, is I do think that Formation could have and should have continued to be exactly what Red Bull Rampage was 10 years ago, and like giving them the
Yeah.
space to grow and to continue and do whatever. Because even Darkfest, it's not the same as Rampage. You can't just get thrown into the same Rampage course and been like, here you go, like go nuts, like we'll die, all of us,
Yeah.
everyone who's not like
Yeah.
the people that are there.
Yeah.
But I
But I
think there
think
was
that's,
a space to like continue to grow that side of it.
yeah.
And
But I
then
think,
have these cool images, have these cool stories, have
yeah.
these cool videos, and keep pushing that.
I
Yeah,
think a real difference though between Darkfest and Rampage is Darkfest is like, yeah, there's awards and stuff, but
jam
it's
format.
not, it's like not, it's a different, it's a more, it's a more collaborative, push each
Yeah,
other type of format, like Formation was.
totally.
And I think that a lot of really good things happen at Formation that allows a lot of those girls to excel at
Totally.
Darkfest too,
Yeah.
right? So I think that
Well, and
taking it
Hardline
away,
2 coming up, which
yeah.
is sweet.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that like makes me so stoked.
yeah.
I'm so stoked to
You gonna
see
sign up for next
more and
year?
more. No. I can ride like gnarly tech sections, maybe.
Yeah.
But seeing them on TV is always different. You're like, yeah, I could do that. And then you're like, oh no, no, I
Oh, how
can't.
many guys have in me? Yeah.
But yeah, I think that like getting rid of it wasn't the answer. It seemed more careless. And I think that
Totally.
we're in a
Yeah.
place where conversations need to be had of like, okay, well, if we're getting rid of this, then like, how do we maybe like having a female category at, Rampage where they help build
Yeah.
those same
Yeah.
lines, and maybe they don't do the whole line, or maybe they just chip off parts of it, but like maybe that becomes more collaborative and shifts. Like, why
Yeah.
does only the women's one have to shift?
Yeah.
Like that's I think a lot of the frustration is like you just cut something without consideration of the consequence of cutting an event like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. And then like, so not that that conversation is all talked out, because we could go for 5
Yeah,
episodes, like
probably.
literally just
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
But I also want to get more just into, you as a human and what you're doing. In terms of like, so now you own this bike shop, you are, which has been going incredible, by the way.
Yeah.
They're nothing but good things, which is
Thank you.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And what has been your biggest challenge? You guys have been open for what, a year?
Almost a year.
Yeah, like right
on the
away here.
21st. Yeah.
And what's been, what have you guys felt the biggest challenge was in terms of getting up and off the ground and running and doing it all?
That's a good question. I think that it was not a great year to open a bike shop.
Yeah.
When it comes to the economy.
Yeah.
So that was always a tricky thing. But I think it just took a little while for people to kind of figure out who it was, because this used to be a Pacific Rim since
years
the 90s,
and years and years,
right? We chose to rebrand just because it's passed hands a few times, and like we were like, this needs a really fresh start, and it needs to be us too.
Yeah.
And we need to brand it the way that we identify in this community. And but yeah, and then as soon as people figured out it was Grant, they were like, oh, it's Grant. Like, and then the ball started rolling, but it took a little while. But yeah, it's been really awesome. It's been really cool to be able to give back to the community in a very different way. It's been a lot to juggle because we started, it's been over a year since the kind of like, are we doing this kind of moment happened. And our daughter's 2.5. So we were doing this with, it started while I was on mat leave. And writing a business plan while she's sleeping, and really juggling. But it's something that we've always talked about. So it was a really natural fit. And how often do tiny bike shops go for sale? And so it's not so tiny anymore, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing that's so cool is like, same with me, obviously I've had Baker on as well. We've talked about that same thing where it's like, and I've talked with Grant. I remember talking with Grant about owning bike shops way back when he was working with Obsession, and I was at John Henry's, and you're talking about all these things that you would do. Like, if I was the owner, you know what I mean? I would do this, right? And it's just been such an interesting path to see those things actually like come together and to see it happen. Which I have to say, like, has been watching especially your guys' journey has been an even more inspiring piece, where there's been a lot more puzzle pieces for you guys to figure out, right? Like now this is my second shop that I've been a part of. It's kind of like all I've done since 2009, 7, whatever. But to watch like you guys both kind of bounce around, you've done everything. You still have a full career, elsewhere. And then to still watch you guys commit and come back to doing this has been like so incredible. And I think it's just such a really cool thing to see how you've managed to make that work. When you talk about inspiring stories, you talk about visibility, you talk about, can you do it? It's like, proof is in the pudding. You can do it. Like it's it's been awesome.
Totally.
And are you still riding as much as you think that you were?
Oh, not right.
Not
right now. No. Yeah. It's been a wild journey. Yeah. Like I teach full time. High school, grades 10, 11, 12. Art, social studies. Yeah. So that's a lot. And then, we have Zoa at home, and then, every other week we have Lincoln, and keeping him entertained and not staring at a phone because he's a teenager. Now. It's different. He's so good. Like he's
still a shredder.
He's absolutely shredding. He's don't let him watch this, but he's better than me now.
We'll edit that part out just for him.
Yeah, he's like really changed as a rider this year. It's been really awesome to watch. Like just something clicked
Yeah.
and everything started to click and it was really cool. But yeah, so we're not getting out as much, but I think considering like we still probably are like once a week,
Yeah.
which at this time of year is not so
Awesome.
bad, but yeah, it's pretty good. And
And what bike
so
you
a
riding
bicycle
now?
shotgun. I'm on a Da Vinci Troy. I got the
Nice.
I post my bike a lot on the
Oh,
social.
I did see it. It is very good looking.
It is the prettiest bike I've ever had. And I love that it's pink. I never thought I would love a pink bike because I think I had my own patriarchy where I was like rejected everything feminine.
Yeah.
But now I'm in a place where I'm like, it's not a girl's bike.
Yeah,
It's not
totally.
like a shrink it and pink it. It is the same Troy. It is
Yeah.
such a machine and it just happens to be pink.
I'm on a
And
pink bike as well right now.
I know
So,
it's pretty trendy.
it is.
Yeah, Vanderhook got it. Yeah, same
Exactly.
bike
You're
as
just
me.
setting trends.
Yeah.
That's why I
I
heard
had it
Vanderhook
before
got it.
him.
Exactly. That's why I heard he got it. Yeah. Steve, he's going to be
Yeah,
on soon
Steve's
too.
like,
So, yeah.
Christine has it. I mean it. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's been really cool. As we were like opening accounts for the store, everyone was like, oh, hey, like, because we've both been in the industry for so long that people
Totally.
were like, already knew us and like brands like Da Vinci, like it just happened, like another shop let it go in Nanaimo and we just were happened to just be opening up and
Yeah.
um yeah, so like we had brands it just kind of it worked. And we
Totally.
were yeah, it was pretty like kind of the stars aligned for sure. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It is very
But yeah,
cool. And so, are you guys going to be any big plans for the shop this year? Business as usual? Are you guys doing anything like anything new and exciting happening? Just kind of getting your feet underneath you. I can't wait to be back. Like I've been to see you guys now, I think 3 times, and every time it's like, holy! I can watch a shop grow up. It's like a little
yeah,
kid. Like it's like, and you
yeah.
probably guys don't see it because you're there every single day. I know what it's like.
Yeah, I mean the
Um,
walls are a little bit more full than when we
even
opened.
behind you, it's incredible. Like,
Yeah,
last time I
yeah,
was in the shop there, it's like there was like a thing there and a thing there and a part
yeah,
there. And it's so cool to
yeah.
see it full now. And you guys are filled out with techs. So you guys are rocking that.
Yeah, we got off like for us, it was really important to have a staff. Like we like like the North Van vibe of bike
Totally.
shops where it's a community where like I remember working at Obsession and calling, Scott Pilecki at Steve
Yeah,
Cycles and being like, hey, we don't have this tire. I'm sending so and so down to see you. Okay, we put it on the table for them. Like it wasn't about competition of sales and like
totally.
I mean obviously sales are important because you need to keep
Yeah.
business alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like Wilson was always like, a happy customer is going to come back,
Totally. Yeah.
So and I like that was for us like that mentality and like I don't know, like you remember 6 o'clock, the store used to like pack up
Yeah.
with people with
Totally.
beers,
Yeah.
like
Totally.
and like that community feel like that was really something that was big part of our business plan was like creating a space where everyone feels really welcome
Yeah.
and like they kind of want to hang out,
Yeah.
and stay for a bit and not just have to come in because they're buying something, coming
Totally.
in to say hi. And yeah, that was, I growing up, Brad and Lorraine that owned On the Edge, like I was in there all the time. Eventually they were like, okay, like if you hang out in here, you got to do your due diligence and start wrenching on bikes. And
Yeah.
I
Or
did.
take the garbage out at least.
Yeah,
Something.
take the
Yeah.
garbage out. Here's a
Yeah.
broom. Like you're hanging
Yeah.
out here all the time watching TV with all the guys. Like you gotta
Yeah.
start doing your time and putting your time into the shop. Like that was the bike shop. And I think that's what a lot of us grew up with. And I feel like there was a bit of a shift
Yeah.
in recent years and that kind of got lost. And
That's
that's where
like, honest to God, my hot take is like, I actually find Kamloops riding community is very strong and it's really good. But
yeah,
it reminds me of like the toxic years of when shops were at each other's throats all the time.
yeah.
There's a few shops that have been pretty good about collaborating, and then there's some that are just like, it's just weird where they're like,
Mhm.
if you're with them, you can't ever have a logo on from someone else, or you can't, and it's like,
There's
man,
such a weird loyalty thing.
totally. And it's like the
Yeah,
more people that
yeah,
are riding, the better we're all doing, right? Like,
totally.
and the
Yeah,
better service we can give to people, and the better, like, more people are just happy, and it's just,
yeah,
yeah, which is weird that
yeah.
people aren't doing it. So we only have like
Mhm.
4 minutes left already. So
Mhm.
give me your last 4 minutes. Yeah, give me a thought.
Okay. being a mom on
Yeah.
a bike is super cool. I guess I'll throw that out there because
Hell yeah.
I was pregnant at the same time as Rachel Atherton, which I was like, this is so cool. But it was like she was a few months behind me. But I think that it was really cool for me to see someone like Rachel Atherton do this
Yeah.
journey, because everything you read about pregnancy is like, do yoga, go for a walk. I'm like, what about riding your bike at like 30 weeks pregnant?
Yeah.
Like, I put flat pedals on my bike so that I had my legs could be further apart so that my belly had somewhere to go. And I was still riding, like I was active. It was hard to get up a hill.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think that like for those women out there who think that they can't ride while pregnant, you can, you just ride differently. And I
Totally.
think you ride really differently afterwards as well. But it comes back
Which is
eventually.
awesome. And like that is
Yeah.
a message that needs to be said, because it's
Yeah.
like, you know, I do feel like you're totally right. There's a narrative around pregnancy that, and rightfully so, that is like safe, and you know what I mean, you know, and like
Totally.
which
But
I get,
safe
and
is relative.
100%.
Safe is a relative
Yeah.
word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's like
Yeah.
you've been riding your whole life. It's as
Yeah.
safe as going for a walk down the street to go do it,
Totally.
right? Which is super rad.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like, and Zoa is like, you know, you can already see it in her adventurous spirit.
Yeah.
You know, when you hang out with
Spirited.
her. Yeah, it is there. And I'm
Yeah.
sure, you know, she's gonna be on a bike if she wants to, which I'm sure she will, you know, pretty
Yeah.
quickly. Is she
She's indoctrinated.
is
She's on
she
it.
doing like run bike stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
already.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We
she's
have Lincoln's old little, what is it, Kokua, like
yeah,
had a little elastomer insert in the back. We kept it, and she's been on it
she's
over a year.
killing it,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Pump
So
track. Yeah.
whereabouts are you in Nanaimo?
Like
You're
central, we're on Bowen Road.
Bowen Road.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
so anyone
Oh,
that's listening, go check them out. I cannot say enough good things about both Christine and Grant, and just about the shop in general. I can't thank you enough, Christine, for coming to talk to me.
yeah. Thanks, Dave.
I mean, 40 minutes
Yeah.
disappears really quickly.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to have you back a year from now and hear about, you know, what other things are happening and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, any final parting thoughts before we sign off? Just about riding, about anything other than keep doing it, keep riding, keep
Pretty
yourself alive.
much.
Yeah, enjoy. And
go ride bikes.
and we're gonna have,
They're
I think,
awesome.
your worst half on in the next little bit. Which would be good to talk to Grant's perspective too. Hear how he probably couldn't have done much of anything without you there. I'm sure that's the story he's gonna tell. So
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, he's being kind.
all right, Christine, love you tons. Really good to catch up. I can't wait to share this interview with everybody, and we will talk to you very soon. And thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you in a week. Have a good one.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, Christine.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.